So today we are going to be talking about the hand. All right, go slideshow mode and full screen that bad boy. Let me actually. All right. So let's talk about the anatomy of the hand for sculptors. All right. So, understanding the hand anatomy is essential for sculpting realistic and expressive hands. The hand is a complex structure made of bones, muscles, tendons, and skin. I'm going to include fat as well, each playing a crucial role in form and movement. All right. So let's talk about the structure and the framework for artists. You guys, I want you guys to remember, I'm not teaching you this from a medical doctor's perspective. So none of this stuff I'm teaching you, you're going to be able to use to save somebody's life or do any of that nonsense. What I'm teaching you this for is for artistic purposes, right? How artists take some of these bones or these muscles, how we take some of these and describe them. Some of the terminology we'll use might be from the doctors and practice and physician practices, but we're going to try to adapt them for artists and how we should be able to depict them. All right, so let's talk about that. So the bones give the hand its structure and define key landmarks for sculpting. There are 27 bones in the hand. All right, so we've got the carpals, which is your wrist bones, 8 small bones, all right, forming the wrist and base of the hand. So this is your carpal, right? When you say they say you have carpal tunnel syndrome, is where they're talking about. All right. So then we have the metacarpals, the palm bones, which is 5 bones forming the framework of the palm. These set the proportions of the hand. The phalanges, right? Your fingers, finger bones. We have 14 bones, 3 per finger, 2 in the thumb, giving the fingers their articulation. And when they say articulation, they mean movement, right? Articulation just means movement. How does it turn, right? There's different types of articulation, all right? So when I say articulation, when I'm saying that is, so there are different things moving in different ways. So the way our bones hinge, I can bend this, but it stops so far, right? Because there's tendons, there's muscle, there's fat, there's different things in here stopping that articulation, right? Our fingers are meant to articulate in different ways, right? This is articulation, different things you can do with your fingers, right? What I can't do is I can't just somehow magically, unless I want to break my fingers or something, I can't magically, my head doesn't rotate 360, right? Like my body is set to a certain way. It moves, rotate. Our elbows, they rotate and flex a certain way, right? We can do this, right? Because of our elbow, the articulation. And, so these are the things that inform you as an artist as to how to take some of these bones and muscles and things like that. All right. So here are some key bone landmarks that you guys should keep in mind. The knuckles, the joints of the metacarpals, and the phalanges. All right. So remember, there's 2 in every finger, or there's 3 in every finger except the thumb. All right. Another key bone landmark is the base of the thumb, a wide, flexible joint that allows rotation. All right. Then there is the wrist crease, where the hand transitions into the forearm. All right? So when you're looking at it, you can see that we've got curves in everything. What I see a lot of the times that young artists and students do is they make these all kind of cylindricals. So you look like you have sausage fingers, right? Let's not give our sculpts sausage fingers, right? You can see that these have these kind of bell shape to them whenever they're coming out, right? There's bone right here, and right under it is going to be like a little level of fat, right? And talking about articulation, right, you can see how these bones would bend forward, and if you bend it backwards, well, you're going to break it. All right? So that's pretty much the hand when it comes to that. All right? So supination and pronation, all right? That's the front view and the back view of your hand or your arm in general. All right? So if you're looking at it from the front, right, this is what you should see with your palm facing out, right? Then semi-pronation is when your hand is kind of by your side, and then a full pronation is when the front of your hand is showing, all right? And depending on that, it turns your elbow, and it'll turn your traps and your muscles that way. So every part of our body kind of affects, like our hand affects our arm, our forearm affects our elbows. Elbows affect our shoulders, and the way the shoulder move determines the radius of how we can rotate our arm and different things like that. All right. So now let's talk about the proximal arch of the hand. The problem a lot of the times that students do make is they make the hand kind of straight. The hand itself isn't straight. If you try to take this form yourself and look, you can see that there's kind of a curve to your overall hand itself. It arches, right? There's an arch there, right? If you guys can see, there's an arch right over here. There's an arch with the flats of the fingers pointing straight up, all right? Fingers do not form straight lines. The red arrows show the different directions of the superior surface of the fingers. They make an arch instead of a straight line, right? If you look at it, this is what you're seeing from the front view if they kind of sliced it that way, right? With this, right, these tops being this top right here and showing that way. And as you can see, right, there might be some flat surfaces, but even under, right, these softer bits have their own articulation. All right, so let's talk about fat pads and skin folds and adding realism. All right. So fat pads, which are the cushion areas of pressure, like the fingertips and the palm. All right. These fat pads allow us so that when we grab something, we're not just grabbing it with our bone. It gives us a little bit of protection from the elements, from other things. All right. If you look at your own hand, you can tell just if you look at these guys, right? Like these are the pieces that you guys should really concern yourself with, right? With the interdigital pad right here, right? These are the forms of the interdigital pad, right? The hypothermal eminence right here. This is the the furthest out part of your palm, right? And then you've got the thenar eminence right here, right under the thumb, that big giant muscle, right? If you can probably squeeze it on your hand if you have it right now. You probably squeeze that piece of muscle right here, right? And then you've got the abductor pollicis, right? And this is you can feel it. And I don't know if anybody plays the guitar or any instruments, right? The more you play, the thicker that abductor muscle can really get. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can show you. So like, I don't know if you guys can see mine, but like I play guitar, so I've really built up that muscle quite a bit on right here. It used to be a lot bigger than this, but like you can see like it gets pretty gnarly, right? I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's what I'm talking about. All right, let's get back. So when you're first blocking out the the hand, all right, this is how you guys should think about it. But when it comes to the Z spheres, I'll show you guys how to use Z spheres to create the base of what you're trying to create. This is a little more complex, but this idea of focusing on the base, the palm, then the phalanges is usually a good working process. All right. And then on top of all of that, right under the skin is our veins, right? And these veins, right, they show depending on how vascular you are. Some people, you can see the veins in their hands. Some people, it's hard to see, right? Our vascularity is different, but the ones you can see the most are usually on top of the hand like this, and they vary. All right. So that's what they look like without veins. And these are just some hand poses just so you guys can see that our hands really do a lot of different things. Like the combo, and that's why AI gets hands so wrong so often. It's because our hands have so many different shapes, forms that they can take, right? Think about it, right? You've got 5 digits, all of them articulating. There's almost an endless combination of possibilities of what you can do with each finger, hand, palm, thumb. You know, you can do anything. Open, close, 2 open, 1 open, fist, you know, holding something, holding a pencil, writing. There's so many poses. That's why it's a very hard body part to master, just because of how complex and drawing it in different forms can be, right? That's how you know the mark of a really great artist is how well they do their hands, right? If you can look at the hands and feet, you can be like, oh man, this guy knows what he's talking about. This guy knows what he's doing, all right? Because like, what I'm saying is like, if you I don't know if you guys probably can't see this, but you'll see it on the recording after, right? I can do any motion, right? And it does things. Like if I now pointed, now we've got foreshortening happening on my hand, right? Like it's just so many combination, and trying to draw all of these shapes and different forms, right? You can put 2 down, piece, 1, you know, the obscene one, fist, turn. It, you know, it's just, it can do so much, and it can get so complex that you want to understand the basics of it, and then you'll be able to kind of articulate it however you need to articulate it for your purposes. All right, so let's talk about proportions and common mistakes in hand sculpting. I've already talked about some of this throughout the lecture, but I just wanted to kind of, you know, drive that message home. All right, fingers are not straight cylinders. Each has a subtle taper and bends, right? They articulate. The thumb placement is unique. It doesn't sit in line with the fingers, but at an angle. Remember that. The knuckles don't align in a straight line. They follow an arc. We talked about that as well. And remember, avoid sausage fingers. That's one of the things I said. Each finger has a bony structure and subtle planes on them, right? So don't make your fingers into kielbasa's, right? It's not the 4th of July. I don't need to see, these wiener dogs or Oscar Mayer fingers, right? They have their own. Think about it as a structure. If I have a bone in here, what does the bone look like? If I add a little bit of fat under the finger, what does that look like? It's not just a long straight tube. You don't have Mickey fingers. All right. So when talking about that, right, here's a cut section of what these pieces kind of look like. All right. So here's a cross section of the hand right here. Boom. And this is closest to the wrist. This is the start of the phalanges right here, right? And you can see, right, the outline. And when you get to the fingers, the individual digits themselves, you can see that even their shape transitions between the actual digits themselves, the actual phalanges, right? The first one, it's kind of got this bell shape. The further you go out into the finger, it then kind of has this little dip and, down. And then when you get to the fingernail portion, right, you get the fingernail, the outer edge, and then the soft round padding at the bottom, right? They are not hot dogs. They are not kielbasa's, all right? We think of fingers as being cylindrical. This is not the case. When we sculpt fingers that are cylinders, we end up with sausages. All right. So now let's talk about the thumb a little bit. So the thumb itself it's a special kind of it's a special kind of digit, right? What's the saying? It's all thumbs are fingers, but not all fingers are thumbs, right? That's it's got its own thing. It does its own thing, right? It's got its own very interesting shape of how the bone and the tip of it work with each other. And you look at it, when the thumb is straightened, nail is pointing up, right? So for some of you guys, if you guys should maybe take some of these positions, right? Make it straight out. Is your fingernail pointing straight? Chances are it's not. It usually has like a curve to it, right? Just because of our thumb and how it rounds itself up. And if we have it half bent, right, what does it look like? What does that look like? Right? That kind of, our bodies are so marvelous, right? The things, how complex we are, the ways we articulate, just this finger, this piece of us separates us from 90% of the animals on this planet, right? Just because we got this little portion separates us. And it does so much. It allows us to hold things, grip things properly, right? And that's some of the things that I think about when I'm like, okay, is this thumb looking right? Is the angle in the right proportion? Am I pointing my nail in the right proportion? Is my nail too flat? Did I make it a curved nail, right? Is my cuticle wrapped around it? And whenever I start sculpting you guys, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. When I'll build the nail, then I'll build a little cuticle or the skin and stuff around it. So it feels like they're all part of each other. They mesh into each other. All of these complex shapes and figures and different things coming together to make the thumb, So it's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting. We got dynamic gesture and posing. This is what I was talking about earlier with how interesting and how intricate the hand itself can be, right? You can study the hands for life, right? And still need to master some more just because there's so many different variations it can take, right? A stiff hand feels unnatural. Observe real hand gestures and how the fingers naturally curve. Hands should always have a rhythm in their posing, whether open, relaxed, or clenched, right? That's what I'm trying to tell you guys. Is like even your hand, right? There's so much expression that you can give with hands. Strong hands, think about a fist, right? A fist can be scary, right? If you open the hand and soften it up, it can be loose, relaxed. It can mean different things, right? So the hand itself, the gesture, the posing, very, very important. It can signify strength, weakness, shyness, fear, you know, the it's not just the face that we express with. We express with our entire bodies. And that's what I want you guys to kind of start getting out of this class is every little piece matters to the piece before it, to the piece around it. They all fit in this harmony of shapes, forms, circles, spheres, cubes jammed into each other to make what we are, right? And by mastering these anatomical principles, sculptors can create hands that look believable, expressive, and dynamic. All right. So that's the lecture for today. It's already pretty much 1 o'clock. So what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna let you guys go practice this. I'm gonna send you guys a copy of this PowerPoint, and on Thursday we will take a stab at it together. Right. We'll do the practical, the hands-on portion of the lecture, because usually what I like to do is do the lecture, then right after do that. But just because of how much time we have left, I will do that next class. I want you guys to kind of take the lecture, try it out yourself, and see what you guys come up with. There's some of you guys that I know it's gonna be looking tight. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna look tight, right? So I look forward to seeing what you guys are gonna do with this stuff. Remember, I mean, even if you just practice it, just practicing it, it will get you better. In the next class, I will then show you how to use Z-spheres. So if you guys don't know how to use Z-spheres yet, we'll learn that next class and how to. But you can start. I just want to see what you guys' approach is going to be to creating the hand. What you guys are going to use before I teach you guys how to use Z-spheres and how easy it can be to use Z-spheres to create articulating joints, even base meshes for your characters, your creatures, all that other stuff, right? I mean, ZBrush is just a really fun program to use just because of how creative you can be with it, the level of freedom that you get with it, different things like that. But yeah, other than that, I appreciate you guys showing up to the class once again. Appreciate you guys' feedback. I appreciate you guys posting. It's awesome having you guys here, sculpting your asses off and showing me that you guys really do care about this stuff. So appreciate it. Do you guys have any questions for me before we get out of here?